Aloha, namaste. This is Alexis Cox with Radha Home Yoga, and I'm here to bring you your full moon forecast for tonight, actually, February 8th, 11:33 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The moon and the sun will be directly across from each other. So our sun has been in sidereal Capricorn. This has been the cycle we've been in. It's been all about external responsibilities, getting things done, taking care of what needs to be taken care of in the outer world, humility in order to do that, that willingness to roll up your sleeves and do the hard work, and that awareness of time, just the fact that this is how much time we have here on earth, and this is how much time we have in this week or in this month or in order to accomplish this goal that we need to accomplish in the outside world. And if we don't accomplish this goal, if we don't accomplish our external responsibilities and take care of those things, then we won't have that home. We won't have that safe place for ourselves to be and feel and emote. And this is what Cancer is. This is the sign opposite across the way where the full moon is. So here we need to have security. The outside security needs to be taken care of in order for our inner security to blossom and to feel okay. Because if you literally don't have walls, you don't have a home, and you're just kind of out in the street, it's going to be a lot harder to find peace in your heart when your most basic need for shelter is not taken care of, and when you don't have any space to contain yourself within. It's harder to feel that security. Just like a fetus can't grow outside of the womb, a child can't grow without that nurturance from their mother and their father, and the emotional state that we each carry with us and hold with us is really like another version of our little child, of ourself as a baby or ourself as a kid. And we need external things to be cared for so that we're able to sit in that space and actually feel, quite honestly, feel. So this Cancer cycle, or this Cancer full moon, is at the end of the sign. And that part of Cancer is the part where we are needing to let go and having a hard time doing that. So Cancer is the sign of the mother. The very first star of it is Purnavasu. It's where the Aditi, where the Earth Mother is born. And I spoke about that a month ago at the full moon in Purnavasu, in the Gemini part of it. So Purnavasu flanks both Gemini and Cancer. The next part of it is Pushya, which is right in the middle of Cancer, and it's the sort of ultimate Cancerian quality of nourishment. The symbol is breasts. It's feeding the earth through vegetation, through plant life, through water. It's feeding our children as mothers. It's literally that nourishment and nurturance that's needed in order for anything to grow. Aslesha, the final star in Cancer, is where we cling, where we're unwilling to allow that which we have nurtured, that which we have birthed, nurtured, and cared for, to then be set free, where we feel so tightly wound that we are fearful and don't want to release it. And it can be a place of great spiritual awakening when we are able to sort of relinquish our control and say, hey, I've done a good job, I've nurtured this. And it doesn't have to be an actual child, whatever it is that we love like a child, whatever it is, even our own emotional state, our own psychology. I've done all I can, I've nurtured as much as I can, and now there has to be a part of setting free, of allowing, and that can be very, very challenging. There's a big part of us that feels like once we've nurtured or cared for something, we need to stay attached to it. We want to protect it. We want to walk through every crowd, bucking off people that might get in the way of it. We want to, continue to mother or nurture that. But the biggest advancement, the biggest evolution we can have is to say, okay, I've done my part, I've done what I can, and I need to actually allow this to unfold in its own way. It needs to be able to evolve without my tight grasp. So Aslesha is the serpentine energy. It's a snake. It's in the mythology, in the Vedic mythology, Vishnu sits atop this massive serpent called Aslesha, and it's like, you know, thousands of heads, and it's this huge, massive being, and he's sitting atop it as the, you know, sustaining presence of the universe. That's just imagining all these different worlds that will be, and that he loves like a mother. And the imagery comes in other mythological tales too, where you see the snake kingdom as the underworld. It's the subconscious, and like Garuda, for example, is actually the vehicle for Vishnu. And he has to get out of the underworld. He's born down there, and he's born like a captive to the snakes, to the naga. He, you know, his mother made a bad bet, had like, you know, there's different variations on the story. Maybe she had like a gambling problem, and she bet herself and her children into slavery to the naga. And Garuda, has to get out, has to find his way out of there. So he flies, you know, spreads, he's half man, half eagle, and he flies his way out of the underworld after performing a number of really arduous tasks, and finally having to actually trick the naga because because he can't accomplish the final goal. So it's our subconscious. It's where we have sort of those dark places that hold us and keep us there, and that don't allow us to fully, you know, evolve out of that, and that don't allow us to spread our wings and fly as high as we can, where we have all those fears and, you know, past traumas and all this different like, you know, kind of junk that's down in us that we can't draw up and out. And what's beautiful about snake energy is it can actually go down really deep and draw up the poison. But you have to be willing to go there. It's very shadowy, it's very dark. It requires you like facing a lot of things you don't want to face. There's another nakshatra that brings up this energy in the middle of Pisces, where you see that you know, it's called Uttara Bhadrapada, and it's where we, again, use that serpentine energy to kind of make that final quest in our spiritual path. Like, we've seen the light and we want to walk home, but we have to like face the shadows first. So both of these nakshatras have that sort of, you know, that serpentine energy, that naga energy, and we're needing to drink the poison. In the tale of the stirring of the Milky Way, all the gods, all the different deities come and sit around to get the amrita, get the nectar. That's what they want. And there's, you know, different things that come up out of the Milky Way. Ultimately, the nectar does come, and so do many other gifts. But before any gifts come, before anything positive comes, the first thing that comes up is the halahala poison. And Shiva is called upon to drink this poison in, and he holds it in his throat, which is why he's often referred to as the blue-throated one. So he's able to use his understanding of the bandhas, of the locks, and his kundalini practices to hold the poison in his throat and not, not die from it. And this concept that you have to sort of get the poison up first before you can find the bliss is, again and again, you'll see it not just in the yogic literature, but in lots of different cultures and things. You see this having to face the dark side before you can bathe in the light. And the dark side for the mother energy, the dark side for our emotional self, for the part of us that wants to unconditionally love and just emote and cling and meet people where they are and connect. Really what it's coming from is a desire to connect. That part of us that wants to feel good and feel peace, has the dark side of getting too clingy, too attached, and suffocating that which we love by holding on too tight, by wrapping ourselves around it too tight. And this is what this star will teach us. So if there are outside things you've been working on, if there is, these sort of external Capricornian qualities that you've been accessing in order to accomplish something in the outside world, there might be an emotional attachment on those projects as well, right? There might be something really heavy in it, like, maybe it's life or death. Maybe it's, I have to do this or else. And that tight wrapping of like, this has to work, this has to be, is, could be what you're needing to face in this time. Or it could be about emotions, actual children, or literal, or not literal children, like projects or big things you have that feel like they're children. But whatever it is in your life that's speaking to, that's what you really want to focus on, is allowing to release, allowing yourself to let go. And doing some of those practices that do work with the Kundalini energy can be very powerful. But if you're not trained, if you're not really knowing what you're doing, it can also be sort of dangerous. So the best thing to do is just practice the locks and accessing them, tightening them, and then releasing them. And there's the three main locks that you would work with are the Mula Bandha, which is the root lock, and you can just pull up on your pelvic floor, hold it, release, hold, release. Oftentimes, women who are going through pregnancy will learn about these in terms of Kegels. It's essentially the same thing. And then there's the navel lock, right? And at the navel, it's like holding your fingers right at your belly button and just dropping them down. And then from there, you can pull back and release. Pull back and release. Pull back and release. So wherever your belly button is, just take your two fingers and hold it right at the belly button and then slide them just above the belly button. And then draw it in, and you can feel your lower abdomen start to kind of flatten a little bit. And then release. And then the final one is like at the throat, Jalandhara Bandha. And you can just drop your chin to your chest to lock it. So generally we would practice these sort of individually to learn them. And then you can also do what's called the Mahabandha, the great lock, which is all three. So you allow yourself to take an inhale and then exhale all the air out, and then you lock the root, you lock the navel, you lock the throat, you hold out for, anywhere from 1 second, if that's the most you can hold the air out, or up to, however long you can. When you feel like you are going to need to breathe, you try to release all the locks first. So you release the throat, the navel, and then the root, and then you inhale. So that's kind of a easy enough practice to work with, where you might not be ready for the Mahabandha, but you can at least practice with the individual locks and just, practice with the idea of controlling and releasing in your own body. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And the different centers, of course, rule over different parts of our being. The throat is generally revolving around communication, speaking, things like that. The navel is generally associated with, domination, control, sort of Mars energy. The part of you that has competition and drive and wanting to dominate. And then the root area is usually more primal fears, fight or flight, stuff like that. And when you're doing that, you're also affecting the sacral chakra, which can have to do with acceptance and, of course, your sexuality, but that basic premise of accepting things in and accepting yourself and stuff like that. So all of them can control different parts of your body, as well as your emotional state. But even just that simple practice of learning how to control something and then let it go can be helpful at this time. Saturn is joined the sun, so we have them both in the same sign, but we do have Saturn at very early degrees Capricorn, whereas the sun is at the end of Capricorn. The part of Capricorn that Saturn's in is called Uttarashada, and this is sort of the later blessed result. So all the efforts that we've been putting in this Capricorn cycle are not just going to go away when the sun moves into Aquarius. Because Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, has moved into this sign, it's sort of it's like a commitment we're making for the next 2.5 years to really be hardworking and dedicated to the long-term goal, to the long-term effort. So it's not just like this moon comes and goes and then it's gone. So that's a good thing for you to think about when you're realizing that whatever efforts you've been putting into something, it's not like this is just a short-term reality. It's the long haul, and there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and there's going to be times you feel attached, and there's going to be times when you kind of feel for what am I doing this, or it's not working out, or you feel down on yourself. There's going to be all those different rivers and valleys and mountains that you're going to be experiencing throughout the process. And but we're in it for the long haul, is the message there. Also, Saturn being joined the sun has caused a lot of dryness recently. We have that hot energy from the sun and that really dry, cold energy from Saturn coming together. Where I live, we had a lot of winds. Not necessarily the past few days, but earlier in the week and the week before, just full wind, very strong wind, bringing up allergens and all kinds of stuff like that. People's sinuses hurting. Then there was some fire. Earlier in the week, because of very dry conditions anyway, we know in Southern California it's already very dry, very brittle, very much not enough rain this past winter. So these are already conditions that we suffer from, and then this has just been exacerbated. When Saturn is directly joined the sun, we feel it really strong, that dehydration, need extra water and all of that. When you see Saturn across from the moon, you might also feel some dryness, but it's not quite as hot and dry. So, for the past couple days, we've had the moon in earlier degrees Cancer, and you see that Saturn had that direct drishti on it. And Saturn's also giving drishti to Venus, which is in the early degrees of Pisces, just moved in. So you see that, that can affect your beauty, or it can affect you on an emotional level in terms of your happiness. There can be sort of a stern uncle being like, you shouldn't be enjoying yourself that much, or something like that. But it depends on what Venus rules for you in terms of how it could be affecting you. In my case, it's my ruling planet, so it's definitely affecting me in terms of my body and my physical well-being. Definitely been dry in the throat, coughing and this kind of stuff. So Saturn and the Sun are parting ways. Sun's going to move on to Aquarius soon, and Saturn will remain in Capricorn for 2.5 years. We do have Venus in Pisces, as I mentioned, early degrees Pisces. This is the placement where Venus is exalted. It's where we have the capacity to find true happiness, the kind of happiness that doesn't come from that tit for tat sort of, you do this for me, I do this for you, compromising happiness, which is great and very useful in relationships, in human relationships. It's important that we have that give and take, and that we both feel valued and appreciated, and that there is some kind of compromise involved. But when we see Venus in Pisces, we're sort of beyond that. We're beyond the negotiation or the making sure your needs and my needs are met equally, and all of that kind of, tallying that occurs. And we are in the realm of just pure communion with spirit. It's not even like the unconditional love you see with Cancer, where you love something like from that one side direction of mother to child. And if you see that, if you see Venus in Cancer or something like that, you can see that sort of motherly energy in a love relationship where somebody is unconditionally loving, but it's not really unconditional, because Venus is not meant to be unconditional. Venus is meant to be where we have that sort of give and take. But when your love is going to spirit itself and, merging with all that is and all that ever was, it's not the same thing as mothering one specific being. It's like everything. You offer love to everything. It will come back around to you 30-fold. Just by being love, you experience more love. But you're not even doing it for that. You're not even doing it for that return on your investment. It's just love. And it's it's the most purest form of relationship with spirit, with God, with energy, with goddess, whatever it is that you associate or have, whatever name that you call it. That's the purest relationship you can have with it, the highest relationship you can have with it. And you see in the Vedic world, they do have all these different faces of God. There's the one God with many faces, is one way to put it. And the many different faces are so that each of us can access that energy in some way. We are, not all going to relate to this one, male figure that is, this is who we all look to and this is who we're going to relate to. That's not going to work for everybody. For some people, it's going to be, Hanuman, the monkey god, or Ganesh, the elephant god. For many, many women, they're going to relate much stronger to a feminine version of God. And all of these are aspects of God. All these different parts are part of God because God is everything. God is all. So it's, it's the animal kingdom, it's the feminine, it's the masculine, it's the fierce feminine, it's the, artistic expression and words and communication. It's everything. It's all those things and more. And we won't ever be able to fully express it. So why not express it in 1,000 different ways? And that, in that realm of all the different relations you can have with God, God can be like a child to you, like when Krishna is a baby or a little boy, and everybody has this fondness and this love for this little child. That God can be like a mother, like Parvati, and you can look up to it in that nurturing energy. God can be so many different things, but in some texts I've read, the highest form of God is that, the highest relationship with God is almost an ecstatic union. It's almost like God is your lover. And you can definitely see this in a lot of the, poetry, especially like the Sufi poets and things like that, who just literally God is their lover in the words they write. And it sounds almost like they're speaking to a lover, but they're speaking to God. You see this with Radha Krishna, with that relationship, and with Parvati and Shiva. There's many different examples of this in all different cultures as well, where that lover relationship with God is like exalted. And that's really what you see with Venus in Pisces, is you see that there's almost a love relationship with Source that is beyond anything of this world. And if we love our physical partner in this world as though we are loving God, like as if both people are uniting through that higher power, then the relationship itself takes on a whole different level. It's no longer these two people who need to have their worldly needs met. It's like expressing themselves in their own spirit, in their own way, that they want to relate to Source through each other, and they become both vehicles for that. And that's, of course, incredibly powerful and the highest level of marriage or uniting. And the purpose of marriage in many ways could be looked at to be that, as it's become something, the health departments take precedence over, are presiding over. But in truth, it's a very dharmic thing to marry and to connect yourself with somebody. And it is a contract through something higher than yourselves, through spirit, through your relationship with spirit, in its true form, in its deepest form, and not just a contract between two people that they agree to do these things and these things. So that's, Venus and Pisces for us. And of course, there's also potential to fall into patterns of addiction or patterns of, laziness, or just escape, avoiding reality, because that can happen in Pisces, and depends on what your relationship with Venus energy is to begin with, and also what house Jupiter is for you, or Pisces is for you, because if it's, if you're an Aries rising, Pisces is your 12th house, so you're probably escaping a little bit in this time for you. It's a placement that's going to bring about a lot more tendency towards escape. If you, each one of us has these planets that rule different parts of your life. And so it's not just Venus is the energy of romance and all these different things. Venus is the energy of romance, but it's different for each person based on what it rules. So if it is, if you are in Aries, it's also ruling your 7th house. So you're escaping a lot through romantic relationships and through connections with partnerships and things like that. And it can, not be as spiritual. It can actually be an avoidance of what you really want to be spiritual. So it does depend. Mercury is about to go retrograde. We have a little over a week before that happens, and it's in the sign of Aquarius. So right now it's about halfway through Aquarius, and it will move backwards. When we have Mercury in its retrograde state, everybody freaks out. The whole world is like, oh no, Mercury is going retrograde. But there's a lot of blessings when Mercury goes retrograde. It gives us a chance to slow down. It gives us a chance to stop all the forward communication that we have, which is a lot. We're always wanting to tell people things and share things with people and get our emails and do our things on our computers and make this fast and make that fast. And the fact that that really fast-paced technological world we live in now, where we can just, with the flick of a button, say all these things to all these people, it's actually quite nice to have some slowing down in that, and to have to think about what you want to communicate, and to have to slow down even on what you're taking in and maybe read it again. It's more beneficial when Mercury's not in as good of dignity, because then you see that you're already operating sort of foolhardily with this energy, and so slowing down is really beneficial. When it's in a stronger dignity, such as in Aquarius, it's less positive, because we already had a little bit of wisdom going on there. There's already some intelligence operating with this principle of communication. So, maybe our communication was actually going to be pretty good, or maybe we were very forward thinking with Aquarius. We're always thinking about the big picture for everybody. How can we help all people? What systems can we bring into being that haven't yet been invented, that aren't in play, that can help things progress and move into a more futuristic vision? And there's a humility there, so it's not this sort of grandstanding of throwing your opinions into people's faces and stuff like that. So Mercury in Aquarius is actually quite happy, quite intelligent, and operating well. And this slowing down can actually slow down some of the really great progress you might be making on, something you're creating, something you're writing about, something you're sharing with the greater population, the greater public. That it can actually bring a little bit of slowdown on that, which is, unfortunate, but it's still a slowdown that's needed in many ways. And one of the ways that it's going to be helpful for us is that we have Mars literally fresh into Sagittarius. Mars is on this full moon at not even a full degree, 58 seconds into this sign of Sagittarius. And Mars in Sagittarius can be a little bit of like going in with your fists up, like, who am I going to battle about my beliefs? Sagittarius, our beliefs and our ideals, and we've had so much energy here for the last 2.5 years with Saturn there. We're really committed to our beliefs and feel a lot of fear around our beliefs and all this. And Ketu, the South Node, is still there. So that part of it where we're sort of laser focusing in on people's beliefs and feeling this, this, like, I've been there, I already know what I'm talking about, I don't need to be taught anything new, but really critical of other people and their thoughts and their belief process, their thought process, and their beliefs and their ideals. That is still there. And Mars coming in with the fists up, ready to fight anyone who says differently, is it can be scary. And with the South Node in Mars, whenever you see Ketu and Mars come together, you start to see this militance. That's the thing that really is the most sketchy about it, or the most scary about it, is this just hardcore militance, because Ketu is so sure it's right and so laser focused and so, withdrawn, emotionally withdrawn from really enjoying and finding any pleasure out of that area of life, but really sort of laser focusing in and critical. And Mars is just there to fight, and it's like, the general in the army, like, these are the rules, this is the way you fight, this is what you do, you go through the motions, there's this really aggressive, police-like way that those two operate together. And right in that field of beliefs, right, when we are coming into, in the US, we're coming into a primary season, there's, just tons of different issues out in the world right now that people feel really strongly about. So this is the time to be aware of that militance and aware of the fact that your fists are up, and other ways you can channel that energy, because it really never works to battle people in this way. If anything, it has a reverse effect. So the more you can focus your disciplining on yourself, the more you can do daily practices, the more you can get up and do yoga, get up and meditate, get up and do what it is that you need to do each day, and focus on you, focus on your own beliefs and your own practices, the better it's going to turn out in the end. The more you focus that on other people, it will come back and hit you in the face every time. So with Mercury retrograde, we do have an opportunity to slow down our mental process, maybe slow down our speech, and maybe reread things or take things in a second time. When we, this fast-paced information world, we read this article, we get pissed off, we post it, we share it, we do this, we do that, we never even fact-checked it. We don't even know if it's true. That kind of thing, the Mercury retrograde can help with a lot. Jupiter is also here. Jupiter is at 21 degrees Sagittarius right now in his own sign. So we have, some wisdom available to us, some capacity to access what does and does not actually have some real truth in it. And that is definitely a blessing that we have and need in this time, because we are, we're quick to fire in these times right now. We're quick to shoot out our thoughts, opinions, and ideas, and to shoot down other people's. And we believe so strongly in whatever it is we believe, like the sources that you honor and believe are like, those are right. And that person is believing wrong sources and wrong information. And everybody feels that way. So it's this massive, problem we have where the truth is everybody's kind of wrong. None of us have the right information. The right information is being shrouded in every way possible. You might have a little bit of it, and so does that person have a little bit of it. And if we shared our information and were less aggressive about it, then we would have a better chance of finding truth together collectively. But because we're sort of pitted on these teams and these and more it's becoming that way, where people are sort of, I call it towing the party line, where people are like, everything that this is the flag here, this is the stick in the ground, everything that's around this I believe, and everything that's around that I don't believe, and that's wrong and this is right. And it's like, well, if you actually looked with intelligence, with discrimination at either of those two flagpoles, you'd see massive gaping things that are not right on either one. So it's like, it's just a lack of discernment at this point, and for sure a lack of wisdom as well. So that, this is my team and I'm fighting for this. It's like, it's wrong, it's not right, and it never will be. And it's not ever going to make you feel good. It's not going to give you the peace in your heart. It's not going to give you the spiritual connection you want to yourself or to others. It's not going to build relationships, and it's not going to create those long-term results you want that were really, the long-term thing we're actually trying to create in our life, which is related to stability and related to security and in financial ways and in physical ways that we all want. We all want those things for ourselves and for our family. And with Saturn and Capricorn, we're like acutely aware of that we need these things to feel safe. But by either denying them from someone else because we think that there's a limited amount of that security available, and if they have it, then we won't, that's not going to get us anywhere. And then in thinking that other people's beliefs are keeping us from that, that's also not going to get us anywhere. Even if there's some part of us that's true, and there is, for sure. There's some part of other people's beliefs that are actually going to affect us and our world and maybe our neighbor or somebody else, where, it could actually literally restrict us and constrain us. But yelling at them, fighting, butting heads is not going to solve the problem. So it's not that there aren't areas that were right or areas that were wrong or any of those things. It's just that we need to find different ways. We need to have new pathways of both communication and action in this world, because we're continuing to use a really old and outdated paradigm to deal with much newer futuristic problems. And that's really the blessing of Aquarius, and with Mercury in Aquarius, we can think of those things, but when it's retrograde, it's going to be slowed down and delayed, and we're going to question it. And there's a lot of humility in Aquarius, so we're always wondering, if it's really that good, or is it, maybe no one's going to want to hear this. All these different things that keep us back from really making those huge steps forward that could be made. But it's possible, it's potential, and the sun will be moving into Aquarius as well, and that will be a period, which I will talk about in the next 2 weeks when we have the new moon, but we'll see new strength and power coming out of more of a collective consciousness and more of a futuristic consciousness and different systems, things that haven't yet already existed, because I think that's really what we're needing right now is something different, something new, because what's been going on is not working, and that seems to be pretty obvious to everyone. Even people who have sort of more traditional values, the old paradigm is not upholding those traditional values. So it's really kind of a lose-lose for everyone at this point. And these teams that we're on, if you are on one, are not helping the situation. They're stuck. That is the old paradigm. Actually, quite honestly, the old paradigm is these teams and is these sort of battling across from each other, as opposed to working together and really blurring the lines, as opposed to creating stronger, thicker lines. So that's the forecast for our full moon. If you like this video, please like it, share it, comment on it. That helps me out greatly. If you are interested in finding out how these alignments affect you personally in your natal chart, reach out, and on the contact me form, you can, ask some questions and we can set up a reading. I've had a lot of requests recently for readings that we do over the phone or over Zoom, which is a video service, or Skype, and I can't accommodate all of them. So I am offering a special right now for at least the next month, probably the next couple months, where any recorded readings where I'm able to do the recording in my own time and send it to you via email are going to be only $85. Usually I charge the same no matter how you do a reading. It's $108, whether you do it in video or whether we do it with phone or whether I do the recording, because it's all the same information. And actually the recorded readings are great because a lot of times people take up a lot of their time and space talking about their own perspective, their own, wanting to validate things I'm saying, or just, feeling the need to talk a lot and fill that space, and they end up using up a lot of their time. So I actually really like the recorded readings for people to be able to just sit and listen. And especially in this retrograde cycle, Mercury retrograde cycle, that will be very valuable. So I am doing a special, $85 for those recorded readings, so I can do some more, help more people in the time that I have. So you can reach out and let me know what you're interested in, and I hope you have a blessed full moon. Namaste.